What would you do when a child who can't speak becomes the only one who can save an entire city? Noah, the silent boy, suddenly breaks his silence with a single sentence that stuns everyone, that wakes them up. This isn't just a story about a miracle, but a journey of struggle, love, and the power to rise above all prejudice. Get ready for a story that will change the way you see the world, where even the smallest voice can shake an entire city. It was a Thursday afternoon in early October. The sun blazed a deep golden hue, but everything seemed worn out. Clara Hart, 30 years old, swept a hand over her messy bun as she glanced around the dance room. The old community center creaked with every footstep, the wooden floor whispering secrets beneath their shoes. "All right now, arms up! Reach like someone's pulling you up by the fingertips," she called out, her voice a mix of cheer and firm encouragement. In front of her stood 10 children, some with Down syndrome, others on the autism spectrum, one with partial paralysis. This wasn't a typical dance class. In fact, dance might not even be the right word. It was a space to feel. And in the far right corner of the room, sitting cross-legged beside a dusty old fireplace, was the boy. Noah, 8 years old, silent as his shadow stretching across the floor. He had never spoken a word since birth. While the other kids swayed with the music, Noah simply watched, sharp-eyed, focused, as if absorbing everything into his very being. Some people said he was broken, that he'd never learn a thing. But Clara never believed that. "Hey there," she said gently, walking over during water break. "You doing okay today?" There was no reply, as always. But Noah's fingers were tapping a rhythm on his knee. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Clara froze. That rhythm, it matched the 6/8 waltz that had just played. "Is that a 6/8 waltz?" she whispered. Noah looked up at her. No nod, no smile, just a gaze. And in that moment, something passed between them. Just then, the heavy door swung open. A sharply dressed man strode in, followed by 2 others wearing shirts labeled Urban Planning Committee. Clara's brow furrowed. "Miss Hart?" the man asked, not waiting for confirmation. "We're from Crescent Development Group. This building, along with 3 surrounding blocks, has been approved for commercial redevelopment. Demolition begins next month." Clara's heart dropped. "What?" "All details are in this packet," he said, handing over a thick folder, pages dense with ant-sized print. "You'll need to vacate by the 30th. The room fell breathlessly silent. One child burst into tears. Noah didn't move. He just kept tapping, steady, calm. Clara stared at the packet, her body flushed with heat. This place, the one where she'd poured her soul into giving voice to children the world ignored, was about to be silenced. And in the shock and anger, she nearly missed it. Noah had stood up. For the first time, she saw him do that. Clara froze. Noah, the boy who had never danced, never taken a single step in class, was standing. His small legs trembled, arms hanging loosely at his sides, eyes still locked on hers. "Wait," she whispered, as if her voice might break the fragile magic unfolding before her. The other kids stopped breathing. All eyes turned to Noah. No one spoke, not even the men in suits. Noah lifted his left foot, just a little, then his right, slowly. Clara held her breath. He wasn't really walking, but he was trying to express something. Like he was performing a dance. And then, with a strange, almost instinctive motion, Noah lowered his hands, sat back down, and tapped twice on the wooden floor. Tap, tap. A chill raced down Clara's spine. Last year, while cleaning the center's basement, she had discovered a patch of wooden flooring laid over the original concrete. An older security guard once told her this place used to be a small theater, sealed up after the war and turned into a food storage warehouse. "A lot of things got buried down there," he'd said, half joking. Clara looked at Noah, then at the spot where he'd tapped. It was exactly where that hidden floor had been laid. "Hold on a second," she said, nearly sprinting out the door. 10 minutes later, she returned with a flashlight and a crowbar borrowed from the maintenance room. "What are you doing?" one of the city reps asked, frowning. Clara didn't answer. She knelt down, took a deep breath, and pried up a floorboard. Thud! A puff of dust rose. Beneath it lay an older floor, rotted, worn, but unmistakably preserved by time. Faintly visible on the concrete beneath was a winged emblem and a single letter. The logo of the Belmore Theater, once a crown jewel of the city, believed to have burned down in 1948. "Good Lord!" The man in the suit stepped back. One of the kids gasped, "That's in our history book." Clara turned to Noah. He didn't smile, but there was something in his eyes, calm, almost serene, as if he'd simply returned a lost truth to its rightful place. For the first time that day, the Crescent rep had nothing to say. He pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of the floor below. This could change everything, he murmured. Clara said nothing. She placed a hand on Noah's shoulder and gave it a gentle squeeze. You just told the whole city, she whispered, in your own way. The next morning, Clara arrived at the city library at 7:45, clutching a giant coffee and running on zero sleep. She had just sent the photo of the old floor with the Belmore Theater logo to a friend who worked in architectural heritage, and now she was digging through old land records. The library was nearly empty. The elderly librarian, Mavis, looked up and sighed when she saw her. Let me guess, this is about the downtown demolition? Clara nodded. I need everything you've got on the Belmore Theater, especially anything after 1945. Mavis peered at her over round glasses. If I were you, I'd check the administrative court files too. Court? Clara blinked. Yep, there was some strange dispute over the theater's land rights. Then the records mysteriously disappeared. Some say they were buried on purpose. The blood pounded in Clara's ears. She bolted down to the archive basement like something was chasing her. 3 hours later, buried in a stack of yellowed files, she found a faded photocopy. It was a document from 1949 confirming that the theater had never actually burned down, despite what newspapers claimed. Instead, it had been closed due to being incompatible with new industrial zoning and sealed off. Right below was a zoning map, stamped and approved by none other than the grandfather of Crescent Development's current founder. A cover-up, Clara whispered. They faked the fire to steal the land. Her phone rang. It was Sam, her friend from the Heritage Board. Clara, sit down, he said, his voice urgent. That logo you sent? It's a perfect match for the original Belmore emblem. And if the underlying foundation is intact under the new preservation law, the entire site could be eligible for restoration and declared a protected landmark. Untouchable. She gripped the phone tighter, heart pounding like a drum. You're sure? 100%. But you've got to submit the evidence to the city council by this coming Monday. Clara looked at the clock. It was Friday. 3 days to save an entire neighborhood. That afternoon, she returned to the center with a few students and an old camcorder. Noah was there too, still quiet, still in his usual corner. We're filming this to show the whole city why this place deserves to keep breathing, she announced. It's not just old wood. It's memory. It's future. It's the voice of those no one ever hears. Noah stood up. No one pushed him. No one asked. He walked to the center of the room and began to dance. Slow, strong, right on top of the logo that had just been uncovered. The recording began at 7 p.m. No professional camera, no stage lights, no elaborate setup, just an old camcorder, a few flashlights tied to folding chairs, and a damp room that had just revealed a hidden piece of history. Clara stood behind the camera, her hands slightly trembling. Beside her was Mila, a former student from the center, now studying directing at an art school. Mila helped frame the shot, checked the audio, and kept the camera steady. We only get one shot at this, Clara whispered. No script, just truth. Then the flashlight beam lit up the center of the wooden floor. Noah stepped forward. He didn't look at the camera. He didn't look at the small crowd gathered to watch. He looked down, right at the spot where the Belmore Theater's winged logo had been scrubbed clean, now glinting softly in the flickering light. And then he danced. No one had taught him that choreography. It wasn't from class. It was something instinctive, raw, but deeply expressive. Every step, every spin, every tap of his foot against the floor felt like the voice of a soul that had been silent far too long. An 8-year-old child, once diagnosed as unable to express emotion through words, was now telling an entire story with his body. Clara turned her head and saw Mrs. Mavis wiping away tears at the back of the room. An older man, passing by the center, heard the music drifting from the open door and stepped in. Then another, a woman with a cane, a couple with a toddler. Within 20 minutes, the small room was full. Everyone stood still as statues. Not a single word. Just the dim light, a boy dancing, and memories stirring from beneath the old floor. That night, Clara and Mila spent 6 hours editing the video. They didn't cut much, just left in the raw sound, the creak of wood, Noah's breath, the gaze of those watching. The final clip was exactly 4 minutes and 39 seconds long. Title, What This Silent Boy Said Without Saying a Word. At 3:14 a.m., Clara hit upload. After a brief hesitation, she tagged the official accounts of the mayor, the city's Department of Culture, and Crescent Development. Now let them see for themselves, she whispered. 7 a.m., Clara woke to her phone buzzing nonstop. The first message was from Sam. Your video's going viral. 100K views in 3 hours. And it looks like Crescent just pulled their downtown ad campaign. She opened the video. At the top of the comments section, the most liked one read, I cried, and I don't even know why. Thank you, Noah. Clara had just stepped outside the center when her phone rang urgently. Hello, Miss Clara. This is the legal department of Crescent Development. We demand that you remove the video immediately to avoid unnecessary legal consequences. Before she could respond, they hung up. 10 minutes later, her inbox flooded. A formal lawsuit for spreading false information. A cease and desist notice demanding she stop all unauthorized promotion on property under Crescent's management. And worst of all, a letter from the City Department of Education announcing a temporary suspension of the center's operating license pending an investigation into facility safety standards. Clara stood frozen on the sidewalk, her vision blurred. She had anticipated backlash, but not this fast, not this brutal. This wasn't just an attack on her. It was a chokehold on the center itself, the home for kids like Noah. That afternoon, when she returned to the center, 2 men in black suits were standing at the door. Please cooperate. We need to inspect your fire safety compliance, one said. Clara clenched her fists. I have all the required permits. Old permits are no longer valid once a formal complaint has been filed. The kids were kept outside. Noah sat curled up in a corner, hugging his knees, eyes darting in panic. He hated strangers, hated sudden noise. Clara sat beside him. It's okay, we're not stepping back, we're moving forward. That night, in her small room, Clara wrote a new post. If they think they can silence us with laws and threats, they've badly underestimated the heart of a community. This small room is more than bricks and mortar. It's memory. It's where children find their voice again. And we won't let anyone take that away. The post hit 10,000 shares in 4 hours. Reporters started showing up. A mother of a disabled child from another state sent a message. I wish there was a place like the one you're protecting here. The next morning, Clara received an anonymous message. Just a link, bit.ly/leakcrescent. She clicked it. Inside was a leaked internal document. Project name, Clear Ground Initiative, a campaign to clear out longtime residents for urban redevelopment. Included were phased eviction plans and the main person responsible, Vincent Lorne, CEO of Crescent, and an attachment titled City Hall Knows Everything. Clara held her breath. Clara sat in front of her computer screen, eyes fixed on the document titled City Hall Knows Everything. Each scroll felt like a stab straight into her fragile trust in the system. Inside were a series of internal emails between Crescent and a senior city advisor. There were also meeting minutes where someone identified as VL, surely Vincent Lorne, CEO of Crescent, had handwritten, speed up land acquisition around Belmore. Don't let emotions dictate planning. The city advisor replied, we'll handle the permits. In return, Crescent will fund the mayor's re-election campaign. A chill ran down Clara's spine. This wasn't just about bulldozing a community center. It was a conspiracy exposing a system rotting from within. The next morning, Clara was invited to an unofficial private meeting by a former colleague from the city council, Rosa Din. They met in the basement of an old library, avoiding any prying eyes. Clara opened her laptop and placed the documents in front of Rosa. Rosa was silent for a few seconds, then whispered, you can't make this public, at least not yet. But I have another way. What? An internal hearing before the Public Oversight Committee. If I play this right, they'll have to force Crescent to pause the entire project during the investigation. But you'll have to testify, publicly, under oath. Clara clenched her fists. And if I say something wrong, you'll be sued, or threatened, or worse. Clara thought of Noah, of the look in his eyes as he danced under the flashlight, of the kids pushed aside every day because the city prioritized flashy projects over innocent laughter. She nodded. I'll do it. That evening, Clara called Sam, her lawyer friend. He sighed, "I'll stand with you, but you have to be well prepared. They'll twist every word. Then we'll give them something they didn't expect." "What's that?" Clara smiled softly. "The truth." 3 days later, the official invitation arrived. Clara Mendez, key witness in the Belmore Project hearing. Time, 10 a.m. Monday. Place, City Hall. Hearing room 3. At the bottom of the letter, a small line was underlined in red. "The hearing is not public. Any leaked information will be prosecuted by law." Clara smiled bitterly. "Not public, huh? Let's see how long they can keep it that way." Monday, 9:50 a.m. Clara sat in the waiting room outside hearing room 3 at City Hall. Her hands were ice cold. In them, she held a nearly 80-page copy of the leaked documents. Each page revealed truths that had long been hidden beneath the mask of community development. A staff member called her name. She stood and walked into the room. No flashing lights, no cameras. Just a long table with 5 members of the Oversight Committee seated across from her, cold and impassive. In the corner, Vincent Lorne, CEO of Crescent, stood with his arms crossed, his gaze sharp as steel. "Let's begin, Miss Mendez," the committee chair said. "We are listening to the witness." Clara straightened her back. Her voice was clear and steady. She didn't read from a script. She told the story, every detail, about how Crescent quietly acquired the land parcels, the staged fire safety inspections, the covert cooperation with the education office to choke the center. Vincent interrupted midway. "She has no evidence to prove those claims." Clara opened her laptop and projected emails bearing his name, secretly recorded audio from a closed-door meeting. Silence filled the room for several minutes. The chair nodded slightly. "We will consider further investigation. This hearing is temporarily adjourned." That afternoon, Clara returned to the center. The land was not yet sealed off, but the suspension order was still in effect. Instead of feeling lost, she acted. That evening, on social media, a poster went viral. "The Witnesses Dance, a special performance." Right at the Belmore courtyard, 5 p.m. Wednesday. The forgotten children will speak out. Everyone is invited, and all cameras are encouraged. Wednesday afternoon. The sun blazed down on the old lot. The small yard was packed with people. Reporters, parents, students, passers-by. Everyone held their phones ready to record. Clara stood at the edge, watching the kids line up. Each wore a white t-shirt printed with "We belong here too." The music started. Not cheesy, just steady drum beats. Every move told a story. Wobbly steps grew steady. Trembling turned into a powerful stretch. It wasn't just a dance. It was a silent declaration. Then, Noah stepped forward. Alone. Small. His hands shook, but he didn't back down. He stood center stage. The whole yard fell silent. Noah looked up, his big shining eyes locked on the lenses of dozens of cameras pointed at him. He spoke, his voice hoarse, weak, but unmistakable. "Don't take away our home." A second later, the yard erupted in applause and tears. Clara couldn't hold back her emotions. She covered her face and wept. Vincent stood hidden behind the crowd, pale, hurriedly pulling out his phone to call someone. The morning after the performance, Clara woke up to hundreds of notifications on her phone. Local news outlets ran headlines like, "The Silent Boy Speaks, Don't Take Our Home, and the Whole City Listens." "The Witnesses Dance, The Kids Shame the System. Crescent Faces Unprecedented Backlash." The hashtag "Don't Take Their Home" shot straight to #1 trending in the region. Clips capturing the moment Noah spoke his first words were shared hundreds of thousands of times, accompanied by heartfelt comments. If a child who once couldn't speak has to speak out, what are we waiting for? It wasn't just the public. Several state legislators shared the posts. A former Crescent sponsor announced pulling their funding. Everything was erupting. At Crescent's office, Vincent Lorne threw a newspaper onto the desk. "Damn it. Send the legal team to my office. Now." A hesitant advisor said, "We still have a preferential contract with the city. They won't cancel easily. Forget the contract. This is a PR disaster. If those kids win, we lose the entire education sector in 3 states. What do you want to do?" Vincent gave a cold laugh. "Counterattack. Discredit Clara Mendez. Dig up her past. Anything. As long as she's silenced." Clara nodded. Meanwhile, Clara and Sam sat in a small cafe, their table piled high with documents. Sam skimmed through a paper. Crescent is suing you for defamation, claiming you're damaging their corporate reputation. Clara nodded, unsurprised. I guess they'll go after me personally. Sam frowned. They've also dredged up the fact your mother sued a hospital for medical malpractice. They'll paint you as systemically distrustful and mentally unstable. Clara gave a bitter smile. Good. Let them talk. I won't stay silent anymore. That night, Clara live-streamed a casual talk from Belmore's courtyard, the stage lights still glowing from the performance. She recounted the whole journey, unedited, unmasked. At the end, she said, I'm not against development. I'm against development that crushes the voices of children who have none. I'm standing here not because I'm strong, but because I was once afraid, and I don't want Noah or any child to be afraid like I was. Over 80,000 people watched live. At the end of the stream, she dropped a bombshell. An anonymous donor has agreed to support us legally and hired an independent expert team to audit all of Crescent's contracts with the city. The community erupted. Crescent was on the defensive for the first time. The mask was slowly coming off. Friday afternoon, the sky over Belmore was clearer and warmer than ever before. The old land, once the battleground of the fight, had now been transformed into an open space, full of light and hope. Vincent Lorne, CEO of Crescent, appeared in a dark suit, stepping onto a small makeshift stage right in the middle of the lot. The crowd fell silent, all eyes fixed on him. He took a deep breath, his voice steady and serious. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today not as a powerful businessman or a cold CEO. I come as a human being, someone who has made a great mistake. The entire crowd seemed to hold its breath. Vincent continued. The development project Crescent had planned, I hereby announce our immediate withdrawal from it. Applause erupted from the audience. But the story didn't end there. He pulled a large envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. Not only are we stepping back, Crescent will be redirecting the entire $10 million investment fund to establish an arts education center for disadvantaged children, especially those facing hardships like Noah and his friends. The applause grew louder, with many wiping away tears. Vincent choked up as he said, I am the one who caused the wound, but I also want to be the one to heal it. I've realized that it's not money or big projects that bring change, but human kindness and genuine care. Clara stood below the stage, her eyes glistening with tears. Noah held her hand tightly, looking at Vincent with surprise that slowly turned into hope. Before this, Vincent was a symbol of indifference and cold power. But today, he showed everyone a different side. A man willing to take responsibility and make things right. Vincent's announcement was not just an unexpected twist. It was an open door closing one chapter and beginning another for Belmore. A place where art and education would become bridges to heal social wounds. People began gathering around the stage, talking about the future of the new center, the opportunities, and the changes to come. Clara stepped onto the stage, her voice gentle but resolute. This is not the end, but a beginning. Together, we will build a future where every child has the right to learn, play, and express themselves. The atmosphere was filled with hope and unity. Belmore was awakening, and the story of Noah, Clara, and Vincent would be remembered as a symbol of inspiring change. A year passed. Under the gentle spring sunlight, the Noah Art Center officially opened in the heart of Belmore. The center was not just an ordinary learning space, but a dedicated place for children struggling with emotional, language, and neurological challenges, souls in need of healing through art. Clara Mendez, now the artistic director of the center, stood in the large hall during the opening ceremony. Her eyes shone with pride, yet remained humble, reminding everyone of the difficult but worthwhile journey they had all endured. Noah, the boy who had been silent for so many years, stepped onto the stage with his small cane beside him. His voice was still slow and hesitant, but every word carried deep meaning. We don't need to be the same, to be heard. Those familiar words became a declaration of the center's mission, prompting warm applause throughout the hall. No longer the shy little boy he once was, Noah had become a symbol of hope, a living testament to the power of perseverance, love, and empathy. Every step he took, though slow, was steady and full of purpose. The Noah Center doesn't just teach dance, music, and art. It's a place where specialists collaborate with teachers and therapists to create unique programs that help children develop communication, emotional, and cognitive skills. Each student receives personalized care and encouragement to explore the world through their own unique language. Clara often tells her students, "Here, every difference is a gift. We don't need to be the same. We need to learn how to listen to each other." And she teaches them with all her heart. The success of the Noah Center quickly spread, becoming a model that many other cities looked to replicate. Stories of children who were once silent and forgotten by society now resonate with the power of art and humanity. Belmore was no longer a city of suppressed dreams, but became a symbol of awakening and compassion. People like Clara, Noah, and Vincent, coming from very different beginnings, joined together to create a meaningful journey, opening doors to a limitless future. And every time Noah steps on stage, he still says that phrase, a gentle yet profound reminder. We don't need to be the same to be heard. A simple message, yet powerful enough to move thousands of hearts and ignite hope for a more inclusive, compassionate world.